Hello, I'm Tony Fowler, VK3KKP. Welcome to the regular third Friday club meeting of the Bendigo Amateur Radio and Electronics Club, August 2025. For the information of people who are interested in video stuff, what I did is I recorded the introductions on a little Logitech USB camera using OBS, a free program for recording and streaming. And then I brought it into DaVinci Resolve, a free full-featured program for editing, which is a fantastic thing. Craig and I use it now for all these videos that we're playing with. BAREC's meetings are mostly held in Bendigo, but 3 times a year we present talks here in Castlemaine to make it easier for regional visitors from further south to meet up in person. And thanks to Castlemaine Community House for making a meeting room available. I know that there are many AI assistants to choose from these days, but I'm concentrating on the first one I started playing with, which is ChatGPT. I've become so intrigued to see what it can do that I've been asking it more and more bizarre and eccentric questions and have been amazed with the results. It's sorted and shortened many arguments with the grandkids, such as, is a yam the same thing as a sweet potato? No is the answer. This is the setup I normally use to operate ChatGPT. The iPad up here is one of the latest ones that can cope with the load of AI. I'm going to show you a few examples of how I get some answers from it. I am very familiar with the arguments for and against the use of this technology and the sorts of horrible misuse that can take place. But I'm here this evening to show you a few of the fun, interesting and educational things I've discovered along the way. My daughter is to blame for some of my enthusiasm. She's an early adopter of everything, and AI is no exception. She uses it extensively in her university teaching, mainly to reduce the administrative burden on academics that they are now expected to cope with, but in her teaching she uses its creative abilities to help demonstrate concepts in graphic design and media production. On a visit to Melbourne some time ago, I caught up with her in her hotel room, and she started showing me all the AI programs she had investigated recently. I was so amazed that I asked her for a pencil and paper to scribble down some notes. A short while later I could see her grinning, and I asked her if she was seeing the irony in all this. She just nodded. However, when I got back home, ChatGPT easily transcribed the note using the camera. A couple of things that she's since developed is an avatar that she has trained on her voice that can now fool me into thinking it's really her, and a podcast I feature in without me being involved in any way. The text that it's based on was scraped from my internet posts, and the voices were totally artificial. I'll play a few minutes.
Welcome to the deep dive. We live in a world where, our digital lives feel pretty much essential, like breathing, almost. Our phones are practically glued to our hands. The internet is just always there. But what actually happens when it all goes silent? When the power grid fails, maybe cell towers go down, and that fiber optic cable is just useless plastic. Yeah, imagine your phone is suddenly just a brick. Your Wi-Fi, nothing. Lights are out. That quiet moment when the digital world completely vanishes. That's precisely when human connection becomes absolutely vital. So our mission today is to unpack the critical role of, let's say, alternative communication methods. We're going to shine a light on a really fascinating real-world example that might actually surprise you. Get ready for maybe a few aha moments about how communities can and do stay connected even when the usual systems go totally dark.
Right. And we're going to dive deep into the work of someone who has literally dedicated, 5 decades, 50 years to making sure communities can communicate when those conventional ways just aren't an option anymore.
Yeah.
It really speaks to the power of preparation, doesn't it? And, specialized skill and maybe the quiet resilience of some low-tech solutions.
Okay, so to really get a handle on this, let's talk about the work of Tony Fowler. He's an amateur radio enthusiast from Castlemaine in Victoria, Australia. And his experience stretching over 50 years, that's not just a hobby. It's this deep well of practical knowledge.
You can see where all this is going. Of course, I leaned heavily on ChatGPT in the preparation of this YouTube video. Firstly, I hand-wrote a list of topics I wanted to talk about and then scanned the page in. Then I got it to suggest some examples to illustrate the points raised. I then printed the document out and wrote in my own ideas and corrections. I then read my basic script back into a word processor using the transcribe feature and manually corrected the spelling, etc. That's what I'm reading from now as I speak, a collaborative exercise to be sure. One of my early major uses of the technology was condensing information off the web. Every query I had, including Mac computer problems or anything that required a lookup by Google, I asked it a detailed question. I found that this was much quicker than going to some online chat room or applications help pages and searching for the answer. It was all laid out for me with relevant links. Now, I do know Google has AI help now, but this was a while ago. Particularly good was looking up user manuals for equipment or programs that I needed help with. This video editing program, DaVinci Resolve, that I'm using, has a 1400-page PDF help file, but I can simply ask it to provide an answer to a problem and it will read the manual for me and give me the right answer. During the making of this video, I had to refer to the manual quite frequently, so I do know how it can be of help. Right, a demonstration of asking about the manual. And I'll use the voice so that you can see what I'm doing, but it's actually better to type it in or to get your voice in the query box, but because the voice takes a lot longer to explain things than than it types out, and you'll be some of you will be familiar with this anyway, but I'll just demonstrate for the moment and turn it down. I think the voice has changed recently. Oh.
Now, so you might know.
There we are.
Absolutely, it's.
You're getting confused, I can see. I'm asking a question about DaVinci Resolve software.
Oh, got it. Thanks for clarifying. No worries at all. Feel free to hit me with your DaVinci Resolve question and I'll do my best to help you out.
Okay, well, there was one thing I was wanting to know how to insert a video clip in an existing timeline so that it would push the two parts apart, insert edit in other words.
Absolutely, I can help with that. So in DaVinci Resolve, to do an insert edit, it's pretty straightforward. You just line up your playhead exactly where you want that new clip to go on the timeline. Then when you drag the new clip into the timeline, you'll see an option or a little icon for insert. Once you drop it there, it'll automatically push everything else down the timeline and slot that new clip right in. So it's basically just positioning the playhead and then choosing the insert option when you drop the clip in. Let me know if that helps.
They've got a much more jumpy, pleasant voice, which is really annoying now. It used to be, matter of fact, but now it's some sort of, But anyway, you have to.
More like you're talking to somebody on the phone.
Well, yeah.
Actually, that voice, they call it an English Geordie voice, is it?
Well, it's an English voice. Yes, I think it was a Southern English, they said.
Yeah, that's actually one of the most popular voices for telemarketers
Right.
in the UK because people relate to it. They don't feel like the person at the other end is being pretentious.
Yes.
They trust them more.
I-
They've got a Geordie voice.
You're absolutely right. And I couldn't stand the American ones that they gave you the choices.
What does the Indian call centre one say?
Oh, well, you can.
We need an Aussie one.
No, the Aussie one was absolutely dumb as. It was embarrassing. They said, you haven't listened to an Aussie voice, have you?
Well, the Indian calls. That would be an interesting experiment, getting one of those spam calls and putting it to ChatGPT and getting them to continually leave it for hours. They just sit there and listen and laugh.
You're absolutely right. I've been experimenting with that too. Once I went to an art gallery down in Melbourne University, and they had three things: Siri, Google, and something else. And all these things were talking to each other, making noises and responding. And I'd go up to one and whisper something, go and ask it this, and it would ask. But the trouble is, they were so dumb that they just ran out of things to talk about, you know, between each other. So I've actually tried to get this to talk to another thing, and I haven't got very far. Grok, which is the Elon Musk one, won't answer back. It knows somehow that it's an artificial one. But this one will. It'll talk to it and say, well, what's going on, you know? And so I'm at an early stage yet about trying to get at least two to talk together.
Talking about you and see what that starts.
Well, that's right. They said a little known fact is Mr. Fowler was once charged. Thank you. I wasn't, you know. Honest. Okay, I'm gradually getting to the radio side of things. I've only got 12 minutes of this, so it depends on how long I keep talking in the intervals, okay? So it's up to you guys. Right, so I've got to, what have I got to do again? Play it. Files. This could have been easier too. Oh, there we go. Getting around to the topic for this evening, which is radio and electronics, I have used AI to read ABC website reports of flooding disasters in various locations, and I got it to transcribe news items off iView. Then I asked ChatGPT the question, I want to write an article about how the emergency responders have seemingly decided recently that there is a need for community groups to do their own flood rescues, as the SES volunteers can't cope with the number of rescues required in an emergency. The Chief Manager Alexander Shire, Emergency Manager Luke, has moved on, but he was on a YouTube video which we played recently at a meeting with the Lismore group who came to Castlemaine. It then gave me some useful information about how to track Luke down, but it went on to write a great letter for distributing to the resilience groups in my area who have expressed an interest in acquiring radio technology as part of their disaster planning. Anyone interested in learning more about disaster planning in the Castlemaine region can join our Facebook group at Mount Alexander Shire Radio Watch. A short while ago, my granddaughter rang us up to say she'd met this Icelandic guy in Natimak, and could he stay with us overnight? She suggested she would come to tea with him so that we could get to know him, but it turned out that he was the son of a friend of her father's years ago at university, and it wasn't much of a surprise that he'd end up in Natimak once he was here from Iceland. I'd been experimenting with translating using the voice part of ChatGPT, and I had helped people in our care, which is an aged care facility in Castlemaine, where a couple of friends of mine now reside, and I was trying to help a Spanish lady who's lost her English language because of dementia. And so I was interested in live translation. It's available in a lot of places now, but at the time, ChatGPT was the only place that did it properly. Anyway, I wanted to test it with a two-way translation, as if we had a translator in the room, and I asked it to translate everything I spoke in English to Icelandic, and everything it heard in Icelandic translated back into English for me. The guy from Iceland was just staggered because he said Icelandic is a horrible language to translate, and it did it very well. Okay, so this is where I need you, Graham. I'll get back to this one. Okay, I want you to, every sentence in English that you hear, I want you to translate into German, and every sentence you hear in German, I want you to translate it back into English for me.
Absolutely, I'll do that. Just go ahead and start speaking and I'll translate as we go.
Okay, Graham, how long have you been in the radio club?
Lange Zeit. Ich glaube, ich habe in das Club für vielleicht 15 Jahre.
Okay, Graham. Wie lange bist du schon im Radio Club? A long time. I've been in the club for maybe 15 years.
Das stimmt. Ich war in Bendigo geboren. Ich war in 1966 geboren in Bendigo. Und ich habe viele Freunde in das Radio Club.
That's right. I was born in Bendigo. I was born in 1966 in Bendigo, and I have a lot of friends in the radio club.
Ja, das stimmt. Und
And Graham, how are you finding the translation of this machine?
ja, sehr klar, sehr gut. Und sehr klar, danke.
Yeah, that's true. And Graham, how do you find the translation of this machine? Yes, very clear, very good, and very clear. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. Thanks, Graham. That's terrific. Okay, I was trying to get this working for the, as I said, for the Spanish lady, because no one else talked Spanish to her. Unfortunately, when I said I'd go in and try and speak to her, they said, "Oh, no, there's issues." So I have no idea what the problem was, but I haven't actually had to try out to see it. But that's amazing when you can actually have like a translator in the room and have a conversation with somebody. Pretty good, I think. So yes, that can be used for listening to other languages spoken on the radio, for instance, more or less live translated. I've always been interested in teaching people who are new to the activity of amateur radio. They often want to know how to get their amateur radio license. The foundation license is particularly straightforward, but people do need to gain some knowledge from books and lessons on the internet. But for people who need actual feedback when they encounter problems, AI comes into its own. There are multiple choice questions on the internet for taking people through mock examinations, but if you get them wrong, you've got to find out where you can find the right answer. I do suggest to people that they text or email me if they want to discuss the problem, but an easier way I found is for them just to put the question into ChatGPT, and it will show them the correct answer in the multiple choice arrangement, and also explain why they got it wrong. That's a useful addition to the process, and as I am now a voluntary assessor, I make sure that they can answer these questions thoroughly before I even try to assess them. Right. Now then, I discovered some of this afternoon when I was practicing a bit. This afternoon I asked you if you knew about the Foundation License Manual 4th edition called Your Entry into Amateur Radio, and you said you did. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. We did chat about that earlier. You asked if I knew the contents of that Foundation License Annual, and I confirmed I was familiar with it, so we could go over some example questions. Let me know if you want to dive back into that or if there's something else on your mind.
Okay, I'm on page 75. Listen before transmitting. Could you write 4 questions down for multiple choice so that I could, like a typical Foundation license examination question?
Absolutely, let's do that. So from the topic, listen before transmitting, here are 4 typical multiple choice style questions. Why is it important to listen on a frequency before you begin transmitting? A, to make sure your equipment is working. B, to avoid interrupting another communication already in progress. C, to ensure your signal is strong enough. D, to test if your microphone is on. If you hear someone else using the frequency, what should you do? Transmit anyway and ask them to move. B, wait until they have finished before you start your transmission. C, increase your power to override them, ignore them, and continue with your call.
Thank you. That's enough for that. Now, we've got some enthusiasts here who think you should override them. What do you think about that? I'm flying blind now.
Oh, I see you've got a bit of a lively crowd there. Well, I'll say this, as tempting as it might be to just laugh straight over someone on a frequency, the golden rule of amateur radio is definitely patience and courtesy. So I'd say those enthusiasts are just having a bit of fun. It's always best to wait your turn and keep the airwaves friendly. But hey, it's good to have a laugh about it.
I reckon she's next door. Come out now.
Yes, I said that to my daughter months ago, that she was in a call centre somewhere and I was going to get a GoFundMe to free her. I couldn't bear the thought she was going to be trapped there. Well, I mean, you know, it does. It's a great help if people can actually do their own training.
It could even be that in the future they might be assessed by AI.
Well, well, we both know that. Well, we both really believe that the ACMA mark everything with AI, because you can send a thing in on Sunday afternoon. It wants all the documents photographed and uploaded, and within 10 minutes it says this person's passed. So you know, yeah, and well, terrific. I mean, you know, because otherwise it takes weeks and weeks for somebody to get to it. But anyway, there's pros and cons, as I said, of everything here. The Horus Balloon Project is an Australian high-altitude balloon initiative run by Project Horus, part of the Amateur Radio Experimenters Group, BAREC. It launches balloons equipped with radios, cameras and scientific instruments to near space, around 30 to 40 kilometres altitude, enabling experiments, tracking and educational outreach. The payloads often include telemetry beacons, slow scan TV and APRS, and the flights are tracked by amateur radio operators across the region. Well, that was the response of ChatGPT to a question when I asked it to tell me about the Horus Balloon Project. So if you're a beginner to this and you get fed up with putting up inquiries which get you heaps of stupid insults via Facebook, then you'll find that you can use it to learn anything. I then asked it how I could get involved with the project, and I got presented with a nice document which accurately described the process and encourages new and interested amateurs to get started. We know that Arduino and Raspberry Pi, plus many other platforms, are now becoming more frequently used in amateur radio and electronics. I was intrigued to hear that the Arduino and the Raspberry Pi can be programmed by AI quite accurately, so I decided to look at something that exists already in my shack to see if I could use it to reprogram the thing to extend its capabilities. The idea is that an Arduino connects to a little frequency synthesizer and gets it to send out a beacon signal with my call sign. This is a breadboard version of the circuit that will be on the screen. I asked ChatGPT to describe the circuit, to describe the programming, should I say, and tell me how I could alter certain parameters to suit myself. This is going to be the most contentious part of the talk because I've already had a few radio amateurs leap up and down regarding the fact that you can use AI to actually conduct a contest entry for you. Well, I had to think about it, and I think that the fact that you use an automated contest entry is not a lot different from using recorded messages to call in the contest, and also using logging procedures on the computer. And after all, the voice of the AI is simply a second operator. It's legal because you're there and you're licensed. To test out how this works, I got an avatar to send out a CQ call to me across the room and conduct a typical QSO. It did quite well on a simple exchange. I think if you're going to use FT8 and other digital techniques, well, you can't argue too much about AI operating on HF. I read in an English magazine that somebody had actually used the voice to operate in a contest. They were sitting there next to it, but you know, it actually did that. So I thought, oh, can it just do these things? So I actually got it to do a mock QSO with me. All right, what I want you to do is, you're the call sign VK3KKP. and I'm the English call sign G8HIM, and we're having a contact on 20 metres, and I want you to call CQ first, and then when I answer, you have to have a reasonable QSO.
Absolutely, we can have a bit of fun with that. So I'll put on my imaginary radio operator hat here. All right, here we go. This is VK3KKP calling CQ, CQ, CQ. This is Victor Kilo 3 Kilo Kilo Papa calling CQ on 20 metres and standing by. And now we'll imagine you're answering as GAHIM, and we can have a nice little back and forth. Let's do it.
Okay, this is G8HIM, returning to VK3KKP. I'm getting it wrong now.
Roger that, GAHIM, great to hear you on frequency. This is VK3KKP coming back to you. You're coming through loud and clear here in Castlemaine, Australia. How are conditions on your end today?
Pretty good. The internet's working fine.
Glad to hear it. Well, GAHIM, you're sounding great on this side as well. It's always nice when the conditions play along. Thanks for the quick QSO and the little demo run here. I'll say 73s and let you go. This is VK3KKP, clear and listening out.
Well, you've certainly knocked the socks off them in the audience here. They're seeing that they're going to have even less use of the radio. Bye.
You would get so many contacts using that voice, you know. They'd be falling away.
Tony, is that spelled with an I? Voice be changed at all?
Oh, yes. In fact, I mentioned earlier, well, anyway, look, that's the end of it. I'll just tell everyone that that's the end of our show at the moment. On that note, I'd like to say thank you for listening. This video will soon join our other presentations on our YouTube channel. Search for BAREC and Radio and Club on YouTube. And you can become a friend of BAREC by emailing media@barec.net.au so you can keep abreast of all our events and including monthly presentations.